Hello, my name is Matthias and welcome to the FPL Scope and the weekly wildcard draft for Game Week 11, where I try to select what I think is the best squad to have in Fantasy Premier League going forward in the next few game weeks. And this is a series that I do weekly, hence the name, and I do it in the style of an NFL or NHL type of draft, where the number one pick that I present to you guys is the player that I think is the most important player to have currently in FPL, and the 15th pick in the squad that I have is going to be the player that I'm the most unsure about having in my wildcard squad currently. So I'm not wildcarding for what it's worth. I used my wildcard back in Game Week 6, but I think Game Week 11 is, I don't know, I think you can wait for Game Week 12 because there are some fixture swings that will help you in Game Week 12 compared to this game week. A couple players that I have included in this wildcard draft today that don't really have the best fixture this game week, but then from next game week onwards, they have a lot better fixtures. So I think if you're wondering if you should wildcard or not this week, I think you should wait for one more week. But if your team is in complete shambles, you have a lot of injuries, a lot of issues with your squad, then sure, you could go a week early and just have some tougher matches in Game Week 11, I guess. But yeah, this is my best attempt to select what I think is the best squad to have currently in FPL. So let's go into it straight away with the number one pick currently, and that is going to be Cole Palmer still. I still think he's the best player to have in FPL at the moment, and probably for the foreseeable future, because Chelsea's fixtures are going to get better and better. But Palmer is one of the players that I mentioned who doesn't have the best fixture in Game Week 11. Chelsea playing against Arsenal, that's not ideal. Two really good teams going up against each other. But from Game Week 12 onwards, Chelsea's fixtures are just absolutely fantastic. So I think doubling up potentially as well on the Chelsea assets, attacking-wise, potentially even tripling up on Chelsea assets, which I'll get to in this video, is feasible now. And Palmer is the figurehead of Chelsea. He's really, really good, as you all know. He's been the best FPL player, best FPL player you could have this past year, just about. And yeah, he's just proving it every single week, it seems like. Not this past game week. He actually didn't have the best score. But normally he will do really, really well, especially with the good fixtures that they're going to get from game week, around game week 12, all the way until like game week 24 or 25, I think even. They're going to have really, really good fixtures. So yeah, Palmer, someone who could potentially be a season keeper. If I were to pick a player to have from now until the end of the season, it would be Cole Palmer. I think he is the best valued player, despite having that price hike before this season, but he's proven time and time again that he is definitely worth the money. And yeah, we know with Chelsea, they can get penalties. They haven't really gotten that many penalties so far this season, but they got a lot of them last season. And I think they will do really, really well in general. Palmer has just been fantastic, and we know the whole potential that he has, which is the most important thing. He is probably the best captaincy choice both in Game Week 12 and Game Week 14 against Leicester and Southampton in those two game weeks. Even though it's away, those are going to be really, really good fixtures to captain Palmer in. You can even captain him against Aston Villa at home. That should also be a decent fixture, but yeah, Palmer is just fantastic. Probably the best captaincy choice, and especially now that Haaland doesn't have the best fixtures. So Palmer is a pretty easy choice for number one. Number two, we have Matthias Cunha. He just has, like Palmer, or especially now immediately, he has fantastic fixtures, and he's shown time and time again for Wolves that he is their most important player, the player that is going to be the most involved in goals. I know Strand Larsen is more of a goal scorer because he's more of a striker sort of thing. Cunha plays more on the side and drifts inwards, but Cunha is just involved in everything. He's going to be a pretty good goal scorer as well. He's going to be the most likely penalty taker for Wolverhampton, and I think he's just a tremendous pick. He's been fantastic the last two game weeks. He's gotten points as well, and now the fixtures are getting even better. You can see Southampton at home this game week. Could be a sneaky captaincy choice as well if you want to go with him in that game. Fulham away is not the best game, but that's like the toughest game that he has for the next 7 or 8 game weeks. And then after that, Bournemouth at home, Everton away, and several other better fixtures after that as well. So the fixtures are just there for Wolves. That's why I'm pretty high on their main assets, which I'm going to talk about in this video, with Cunha being the most important player out of them. He's also a pretty cheap striker. 6.5 is not too much. I know there's a lot of good cheap strikers, but I think Cunha is the standout pick of the bunch, especially considering his fixtures. But all in all, I think he's also one of the better players out of the cheaper attacking forward assets in FPL as well. I think he deserves to go to a bigger club at the end of the season, and we'll see what happens with him. But yeah, he's just been tremendous this whole season, and I think he's going to be in for a lot of hauls going in this season, going forward in this season as well. So yeah, Cunha is there at number 2. Number 3, we actually have Bruno Fernandes, and I never expected to say this, but he's kind of back. He's kind of playing more in that advanced position we saw against Chelsea, a really tough opposition. He did score a penalty, which he's not going to get every single week, of course, but he was in really dangerous positions all the game. He had 2 pretty decent shooting chances where I think if he had gotten a little bit more confidence in front of goal, which I think he might get now from scoring that penalty, if he had a little bit more confidence in front of goal, he would have probably taken the ball down and tried to shoot it more controlled. But this time around, he just shot it first time around and he sort of missed the attempts that he had. But he had really good shooting chances, had decent underlying stats. The fixtures are absolutely fantastic. I spoke about Cunha as a potential captaincy option this week. I think Fernandes might be even better as a captaincy option sneakily this week as well against Leicester at home. So yeah, a lot of good fixtures for him going forward in the next 3 game weeks, especially Bruno Fernandes. So short-term wise, I think he's absolutely fantastic. Long-term, remains to be seen what happens with Amorim, but that's the good thing about having him as well. You get the Leicester game where he plays in the Ruud van Nistelrooy system, where he's looked really good so far over the 2 games. He scored 3 goals in the 2 games and been in really good positions. And then Amorim takes over in the Ipswich game, and you also get to see him under Amorim in the Everton game as well. So you get a 2-game sample size with him under Amorim before you decide whether you want to sell him or whether you want to keep him. I think personally he could be one of the best valued assets in the game from now on until the end of the season. Depends, of course, what happens with Amorim and how good Man United look under a new manager. That also remains to be seen, but I think this is a really good jumping on point for Bruno Fernandes, especially with this game week against Leicester at home, which is a fantastic game week for him in general. So yeah, he comes in at number 3 for that reason. I think he's a really, really good asset to have currently, and I did not expect to say that earlier in the season, but we know how good Bruno Fernandes is. It's always been about the system, about Man United, how they've played, how badly they've been run, and how poor they've been offensively. But I think we're going to see some better days ahead for Man United and Bruno Fernandes especially, and for what 8.2 I think is a pretty good deal currently. So yeah, he's in at number 3. Number 4, Mohamed Salah. A bit more expensive, but also a bit more reliable. We know how good Liverpool are. We know how good Salah is. He scores every single game week. It doesn't really matter who his opposition is. And that is good because his fixtures aren't the best, as you can see. But both Aston Villa at home, we saw Aston Villa ship 4 goals against Spurs now, conceding 4 goals against Spurs, which is not that good, especially in the second half alone. They are probably getting more fatigued as they're playing Champions League every single game week. So yes, they have been pretty good defensively so far this season in terms of numbers, but maybe they're starting to struggle a bit more now with tougher fixtures and a lot of fixture congestion as well. So I think this game week is really good for Salah. I think he's going to be kind of like the default captaincy pick. I think I could potentially lean that way myself as well. I think he's, might be the best captaincy pick this week. Southampton away next game week as well. It's between him and Palmer for who's the best captain. I could potentially go for Salah there, but I'm probably leaning towards Palmer there as well. But even so, Salah should get decent points there. City at home. He's shown in the past that he can score against City, even when City were a better team. Now City are kind of struggling a bit, and I think Salah can take advantage of that as well. So the fixtures aren't the best, but we know how good Salah is, and the fixtures are still slightly better than Haaland's fixtures, so I prefer having Salah rather than Haaland in the squad. So he's in at number 4 for that reason. Number 5, Ait-Nouri. I did mention the Wolves fixtures. I think they're fantastic. Ait-Nouri is in such good positions in the box. I know he didn't have the best game this past game week. Personally, like the decisions that he made weren't the best, but the positions that he was taking are just absolutely fantastic. Like he's playing as a striker sometimes. It seems like he's in the box in those central areas waiting for the ball to be crossed into him, which is crazy for a defender, especially for the price that he is. I think he's 4.7 now. I think he's gone up quite a bit in price. But that's because a lot of people have bought him in because they are expecting him to get a lot of points going forward. Wolves haven't really been the best for clean sheets so far this season, but I think that could also improve with the better fixtures that they get now, and with the attacking potential that Ait-Nouri has as well, and being a really cheap price. I think he's just the best defender in the game currently. So yeah, he comes in at number 5 for that reason. I don't really think there's that many standout defenders currently, but Ait-Nouri is definitely one of them. He's someone that you could definitely pay attention to, because both his attacking threat and his fixtures just tell you something about him being a potentially really good asset going forward. So he comes in at number 5. Number 6, we have Bryan Mbeumo, who's dropped a bit since last time. He was number 3 last time. He was number 2 the week before that in my weekly Wildcard draft series. And the reason he's dropping is, 1, his fixtures are starting to dry up a bit. He still has 3 really good fixtures in Bournemouth at home, Everton away, and Leicester at home in the next 3. But after that, I think it might be time to sell Mbeumo after that major game against Leicester, where he could potentially be the best captain's option, as you can see there. Palmer has Aston Villa at home. Salah has Man City at home. Haaland would obviously have Liverpool away. That's a really tough fixture. So that could be the last hurrah for Mbeumo being a really good captaincy choice in that game week. But not only the fixtures, this past game week did not look good for Mbeumo. Played against a really good team in Fulham, so that should be taken into account. That's a tough game regardless, and they also got their early lead and tried to just defend their way into winning the game, and then obviously they conceded twice in injury time. But Mbeumo, Even got subbed off early, which is not really that usual. He also played really far back compared to what he has done so far this season. But I think it's mostly down to what happened in that game, the game state of that game, and also the fact that Fulham are a really good defensive side as well. But on the plus side, at least, when they were sort of playing counterattack mode, he was sort of the furthermost player there, trying to get into the counterattacking positions. But Brentford just really didn't try to play attacking football that much in that game in general. So he kind of struggled there in Mbeumo. But yeah, that's just a one-game sample size. I don't think it counts for too much, but I was a bit worried from the first half, especially seeing how pretty much he was like out wide on the right wing side, wasn't really involved attackingly that much in the first half. So that's a bit of a concern, but I still think he's definitely someone to keep for the next 3 game weeks, and then you can sell him after that when his fixtures get a bit tougher. But Mbeumo still a fantastic pick on penalties. He's that guy. He's been really good all season, so really no reason to doubt him that much. But there are some doubts starting to creep in with him and Brentford and their fixtures in general going forward. Number 7, Alexander Isak. He scored this past game week against Arsenal, the best defense in the league. A magnificent goal with his head. He's showing that he's getting back into fitness, back into form, being ready to play in 90 minutes and provide the goods in terms of scoring goals. I think the matches are really good going forward. Again, Game Week 11 is not the best game week to jump on him because he has Nottingham Forest away, which is a really tough defense to play against. But after that, West Ham at home. West Ham have been terrible this season in terms of defending, and Isak always has a really good time against West Ham. So I think that's a really good jumping on point for Isak in Game Week 12. I kind of wish I was able to do it with my own team as well, but I'm probably not going to be able to do it unless I sell Watkins, who I think it's just not worth it in terms of how good fixtures Watkins gets from the Game Week 12 as well. But Isak, in his own right, I think is really, really good. Callum Wilson is just never going to be fit, it seems like. He has been out all season, and he's always like 3-4 weeks away, and then 3-4 weeks pass, and then he's 3-4 weeks away again. So you can't really count on him, and I think Isak, regardless if Wilson plays or not, he's going to be a pretty important player in that attacking system for Newcastle, and I think he's just been but getting back into form, looking more like himself. The reason why all of us had him basically Game Week 1 is the fact that he was so good last season and Newcastle looked pretty good. And yeah, I think that's going to happen from Game Week 12 onwards, especially with Isak. He's going to be a fantastic asset. He could potentially be, again, also like a captaincy contender, I guess, but I think Salah or Palmer are better in that Game Week 12. But again, that proves why Game Week 12 is such a good week to wildcard. You can see Liverpool fixtures, Chelsea fixtures, Isak, a lot of good jumping on points there for a lot of players. So I think Game Week 12 is a really good time to wildcard. But currently, if I was wildcarding Game Week 11 for some reason, I would still pick Isak just because he's going to be really good eventually. So yeah, he comes in at number 7. Number 8, Nicholas Jackson. Same with him and Chelsea again. Game Week 12 onwards, fantastic fixtures. Chelsea are going to be the team to target in terms of having players from, and Palmer and Jackson are the 2 best players at Chelsea, attacking wise, especially this season. They are the most secure in terms of minutes played, and they're also really involved attacking wise. Palmer obviously with his penalties and stuff, and Nicholas Jackson as the main striker for Chelsea. He's going to play every single game up front, it seems like, and Cunha's going to play in the Conference League up front, and Jackson's going to rest in those fixtures and play in the league, and that's perfect for Nicholas Jackson, who has been really, really good this season and has proven so far that he's a fantastic asset as well to have up front. So yeah, I wouldn't hesitate to put him in, even though he has Arsenal this fixture. You can still bench him in that game week and play all the other attacking players that you have available to you. And then from Game Week 12 onwards, he's going to be a fantastic pick in FPL. So yeah, Nicholas Jackson, I think he's really great to have. I think he's a really good player in general, one of the best strikers in the Premier League, in my opinion. Not just for his goal scoring, but also for his goal scoring. He's been a good FPL asset so far this season as well, and I think that's going to continue and get even better as the season goes along. So he comes in at number 8 for that reason. Number 9, we have Gvardiol. He just won't be denied. He scores every single game week now, it seems. That's why I had him from the start of the season, because I thought his goal threat would be really nice, and I thought Man City would be good defensively. That second part hasn't really come true. They lost their first game of the season now against Bournemouth 2-1, but Gvardiol still found a way to score a goal from a header. He's had really low XG compared to how many goals he's scored so far, but he is just really good at scoring goals, basically. The header was fantastic. The shooting he's had the past few game weeks when he scored as well has been really good. The one game week where he did keep a clean sheet, he got a lot of bonus points. So he's just a really good, he just has so many good avenues to getting points for Man City. So yes, the fixtures aren't the best. Yes, City haven't been the best defensively so far this season, but Gvardiol just seems to be getting into goal scoring positions and being a really good finisher in general as well, which makes him still a really good pick. And I don't think there's that many good defensive assets, so I think Gvardiol is pretty easy choice in terms of being like the premium defensive asset you should go for currently. So he comes in at number 9. Number 10, we have Morgan Rogers, who once again this past game week looked really good, scored a goal, was at the right place at the right time for Aston Villa in that game against Spurs. And then he also had a really nice pass to Watkins, who really should have scored and made it 2-0 for Aston Villa. Really nice again. That's the second game week in a row, I think. The Fulham game as well, he had a similar pass through to Watkins, who could have scored. But then at that point, Watkins was pushed down by Anderson from Fulham. That was actually 3 game weeks ago, I think. But anyways, Rogers is in fantastic attacking positions all the time. He plays a lot of minutes for Aston Villa, who are still a really good team, despite all the fixture congestion and the bit of fatigue that is seeping into them now. But still, Rogers is at such a good price. There's really no reason to go without him, and I don't think there's many reasons to bench him either. Obviously, that would be like a benching decision this week, Rogers or Nicholas Jackson. Potentially, you could bench Rogers this game week. That's what I'm going to do with my own team personally as well. But from the game week 12 onwards, again, Aston Villa is another team that's really good from game week 12 onwards. You can see Crystal Palace at home there. Chelsea away isn't the best, but then Brentford at home, and then I think it's Southampton at home or something like that in the game week after that. So yeah, just really good fixtures coming up as well eventually for Aston Villa, and Rogers is someone that you can just easily keep on your bench. Mostly not on your bench, but keep in your squad at least for the foreseeable future, because he is at such a good price and has such good minutes and plays for such a good team. So yeah, Rogers is in number 10. He's been a pretty constant player in these weekly Wildcard draft segments, and that's just because he's tremendous value, and there's really no reason to get rid of him. Because yeah, he's providing the points as well, so there's not really any reason at all to get rid of him. So yeah, he's still number 10, despite having some tougher fixtures, and Aston Villa looking a bit more shaky now that they have early in the season, but I still think he's a fantastic asset. So yeah, Rogers at number 10. Number 11, we have Lewis Hall from Newcastle. He's been playing every single time and playing 60 minutes plus every single time the last few game weeks. Newcastle, like I said with Isak, have really good fixtures coming up eventually. Lewis Hall is also a pretty attacking fullback, so he works out really well in that regard as well. He's really cheap. He's 4.3. So I think there's a lot of things lining up for Newcastle. Botman is also coming back at some point as a defender for them. That's going to help them defensively in terms of getting those clean sheets. And I think especially at home, they are pretty strong defensively, as we saw against Arsenal. Arsenal can really create much at all against Newcastle. So I think they're in for a pretty good time and getting a lot of clean sheets going forward this season as well. And Lewis Hall could get some assists. He got an assist in game week 9 as well. He's got 6 points the last 3 game weeks in a row. So yeah, he's been pretty consistent both in terms of playing time and in terms of returns in FPL, and the fixtures are getting really, really good. The Nottingham Forest fixture isn't the best for Isak as an attacking asset, but defensively should be decent enough. But we know Chris Wood is most likely going to score in that game, but still could potentially be a clean sheet for Newcastle as well, even though it's away, which is always going to be tough for Newcastle because they are a lot better at home than they are away. But yeah, I think the fixtures are good. I think the price is really good. He has some attacking threat and decent clean sheet potential as well eventually. So Lewis Hall is a pretty good pick and comes in at number 11. Number 12, we have Fabianski in goal. He is actually the most secure goalkeeper for me. I don't really have any good, strong choice for number 1 goalkeeper. Fabianski is obviously still a backup, even though I have listed him as the number 1 goalkeeper in the squad. But that's just because he's such an easy pick. There's no other reason or no reason to pick any other 4.0 goalkeeper because Fabianski is playing at least. And even though he didn't have the best game, and maybe Areola gets his place back at some point, for now, Fabianski is going to be the starting goalkeeper for West Ham. And for that price, that's decent, even though West Ham don't really keep clean sheets. But yeah, he's just a really good backup option, so he comes in at number 12, just because he's a certainty to be in the squad, basically, because he's really cheap and yeah, is playing matches at least. And out of all the goalkeepers so far, they've been pretty bad in general. The one shining light basically has been Matt Sells, but then Nottingham Forest are getting really tough fixtures now as well, so he's going to be a tough player to choose as well. So yeah, Fabianski is the goalkeeper that I have the most confidence in currently as a backup, basically. I think you should go with a different starting goalkeeper, but even if you want to go with 2 4.0 goalkeepers, having Fabianski and someone else at 4.0 could also probably be decent because no goalkeepers are really getting that many points, so maybe you should just save the money in general. But yeah, Fabianski comes in at number 12. Number 13, we have Rico Lewis. Still, I'm not giving up on Rico Lewis, even though he didn't start this past game, played only 17 minutes, but that also is sort of like a plus sign for Lewis that he came on, because usually if he didn't have that high of a standing in Pep Guardiola's system, he probably would have just been staying out of the game, but Guardiola really needed a goal. and just wanted his best players on the pitch, so he put on Rico Lewis. So I think Rico Lewis's fixtures or his minutes are still going to be really good. I know a lot of people are going to be scared off. He's going to be sold by quite a lot of managers now just because he didn't play this past game week, but I think this was his time to get rest, and now he's going to play going forward still 60 plus minutes most games. So with that in mind, that's what I've always said about Lewis the last few game weeks. He hasn't really provided the goods in terms of points, but for such an attacking player that plays pretty decent minutes for Man City, in my opinion, I think he's going to still keep playing a lot this season with Rodri being out. I think it's just too good to pass up on, basically, for that cheap price. And especially also when we don't really have that many other good defenders to choose from this season. I think Lewis is still someone that's nice to just have in stash. And you can just bench him whenever City have a tougher game. You can start Gvardiol and bench Lewis and hope for the best. And in those game weeks where Man City have really good fixtures, you can start both of them and have a really good defensive pairing there in both playing at the same time. So yeah, Lewis still comes in at number 13, still is in the squad. But yeah, he's not essential by any means. He hasn't really provided the goods, and you can't really expect too much from him either. You should just count him as like a 4.7, 4.5 type defender, because that's basically what he is in terms of value so far this season. But he has potential to be so much better than that, and I still think the best is yet to come for Lewis this season at some point. Number 14, we have Kadioglu from Brighton. Scored a goal this past game week, obviously, against Liverpool. That does affect things. That is always a plus to see people score goals. But he's also just, it seems like he's pretty nailed for minutes whenever he plays. He can either play left back or right back. Basically, that's like a wing back sort of position. When he doesn't play left back, he plays right back. When he doesn't play right back, he plays left back. It seems like he's playing every game, and he's getting pretty far forward as well. He's also a decent set piece threat as well. In terms of taking set pieces. So yeah, I think there's a lot of avenues to points there for Kadioglu, and he's also another player that has really good fixtures coming up eventually. I think Brighton are going to be a team to be reckoned with going into the future, and I think Kadioglu is someone that you could bank on and have him for the future fixtures, where I think he can get some clean sheet points potentially, and potentially some attacking returns as well, as we saw that he's capable of against Liverpool this past game week, one of the tougher defenses in the league. So yeah, I think he's a decent pick. Don't think the fixtures are the best currently, so that's why he's not higher on the list. But as the game weeks go along, I think he's going to climb up in the rankings for me and be one of the better players to have in defense. So yeah, Kadioglu I think is a decent pick to have. And he's proven this past game week especially that he has really good finishing as well. Really nice finish in that game against Liverpool to get the goal. And I think he can get some points going forward in general. So yeah, he comes in at number 14. Finally, we have our goalkeeper, and it's a new goalkeeper. I had not sells the past few game weeks in the weekly wildcard draft, but the fixtures for Nottingham Forest are getting worse. So, and the Chelsea fixtures, like I mentioned, are getting better. So I think Sanchez, who's currently my own keeper in FPL, who I haven't been happy with the last few game weeks. Chelsea are not a good defense by any means, but they are a good team. And when they get better fixtures, I think that's going to count for something when it comes to clean sheets. I think good teams, even though they are bad defensively, can get a lot of clean sheets if they are just the attacking side, if they are the team that are the best team in that game. And I think that could be a way to get clean sheets as well. So I think just long-term fixtures-wise, I think Sanchez's fixtures are good enough for him to be the starting goalkeeper. I don't think there's any standout goalkeepers apart from Sels, who has really tough fixtures now. Nottingham Forest have some of the tougher fixtures in the next few game weeks, so I think Sanchez is better for that reason. So he gets into the squad, but he's the 15th pick for a reason. And that's because I don't really find any goalkeepers that attractive currently. It was really hard for me to pick a goalkeeper that I like. I don't really like Sanchez that much either, but I think he's the best of the rest, basically. I don't think a 5.5 goalkeeper is good. I've talked about that this whole season. Don't like having Raya or Ederson or anyone like that taking up a spot from a really good team. I just don't think it makes sense, because goalkeepers aren't really... They're not going to get that many points in general. We saw Fleck in this past game week going from 12 points going into the 90th minute, then dropping down to 8 points after conceding the first goal, and going down to 4 points after conceding the second goal. And that's the case for goalkeepers. If you make like 10 saves like Flecken did, and then you concede 2 goals, you're still not going to get bonus points. So I think goalkeepers are just at an all-time low when it comes to value as well. Yeah, it's really tough for them to get points in general. And they're pretty much capped at like 6-point swings, or 6-point game weeks in general. So yeah, Sanchez is the best of the rest, I guess, and gets in at number 15 in the squad. And that fulfills the whole squad. You can see there are 4 names with that are in green color, and that means that they are new players from the squad from last time. Sanchez, Hall, Kadioglu, and Isak. 4 players have come in. 4 players that means that 4 players have dropped out. So let's take a look at those 4 players that have dropped out before we look at 3 players that were close to making the squad but didn't make it in the end. So first and foremost, the players dropping out. The main guy is Trent Alexander-Arnold for Liverpool. I'm just sort of running out of patience with Liverpool and Trent, especially defensively. Konate got injured the past game week, which is going to hurt their chances for clean sheets. You can see the fixtures: Aston Villa, Southampton away is decent, of course, but then Man City, Newcastle away. These fixtures are not good for clean sheets either. So yeah, Trent just hasn't proven it so far this season. I still have like decent hope for him. I'm still going to keep him in my own team for these next 2 game weeks against Aston Villa and Southampton. But I think time is running out for him. He needs to provide some goods. Hasn't really looked that attacking either. At the start of the season, he was really good offensively. These past few game weeks, I haven't really seen as much attacking return or potential attacking returns from Trent. So for that reason, I finally decided to drop him after so many weeks of putting faith into him and hoping that he would turn good and get some attacking returns. But yeah, hopefully he'll get them in the next 2 game weeks while I still have him. But for now, I can't really advise you to keep him or have him if you are wildcarding now in Game Week 11, for example. So yeah, Trent is out. Raul Jimenez as well. Really disappointed to see him against Brentford. Didn't really do much. He looked better in the second half, but then again, he got subbed off after about 70 minutes with Muniz coming on. Instead, even though they were chasing a goal, they still did that striker for striker swap. So yeah, he's going to be capped at around 70 minutes played because Muniz is still a pretty good striker who Fulham want to get going again. So yeah, for that reason, and the fixtures just getting worse and worse now for Fulham eventually, I don't think it's the right moment to have him in us now. He had a really good home game against Brentford, didn't really show much at all in that game, had a really disappointing game, so that's why he's dropped out since last time basically. I think Isak and Jackson are just worth it more than Raul Jimenez currently. Mats Sells, I did mention that he has dropped out as the #1 goalkeeper, and like I said, that's mostly down to the fixtures. I think just the fixtures are better for Chelsea, but again, if I had to choose a goalkeeper to have from now until the end of the season, it would be Sells. So maybe I'm foolish to drop him for Sanchez, but yeah, I just feel like maybe the Nottingham Forest defensive thing is going to struggle a bit more now that they get tougher fixtures. They've had a really good fixture run so far. They are, 3rd in the table, 4th in the table currently. They are a really good team, especially defensively. So Sells is still your goalkeeper. I wouldn't sell him by any means, but if I was on a wildcard, I probably would pick Sanchez currently. Or if I was picking up a new goalkeeper, probably would be Sanchez over Sells. But it's really close. Like I mentioned, I had Sanchez number 15, so it's really, really close. I could have picked Sells for sure. But yeah, I think Sanchez, just because of the fixtures, is slightly better. And that's what I thought in Game Week 6 when I wildcarded. And since then, Sells has gotten, 21 points more, or 16 points, I think, more than Sanchez has gotten from that point. But anyways, Sells is a decent goalkeeper, but he drops out just because of the fixtures. And finally, Mykolenko, I just don't think Everton's fixtures are the best either. I think they've been pretty good so far defensively, or the last few game weeks defensively. They've looked a bit better, especially with Brantford coming back in. They're going to be good defensively, but again, the fixtures are starting to run out for Everton. They aren't really the best team to go for currently. That's why a lot of people are looking to wildcard in Game Week 12, because from that point onwards, Everton and a couple other teams are starting to look worse, and a couple of the players that I've talked about in this video are starting to look better in terms of fixtures. So yeah, Mykolenko drops out for that reason. I had him 15th pick last time around anyway, because I didn't really have too much faith in them. You could go with a really cheap defender, 4.0 defender, Vandenberg, for example, if you want to save money rather than someone like Kadioglu. But I think there's just a case to be made, especially now that we're dropping Trent and we don't really have that main guy starting every single week for the foreseeable future. I think it's nice to just have some more options defensively that are potentially really good. So Kadioglu is better pick than Mykolenko currently. And Hall, for that matter, is a better pick currently than Mykolenko. So Mykolenko drops out for that reason. And finally, to end the video, we have 3 players that were close and people that I have considered in the drafts as well that I think you should consider that just didn't make the cut. So let's talk about those guys before we wrap up the video. And those guys are Antoine Semenyo, João Pedro, and Lucas Digne, basically those 3 players. First and foremost, Semenyo, I still have him in my own squad, but I might sell him this game week for Fernandes still, because I just really like Fernandes, and I have Palmer, Salah, and Mbeumo, Rodgers currently. Like, that's the midfield that I have. So, but I think Semenyo, the fixtures that Bournemouth have are really, really good. I could have mentioned Evan Nilsson as well. He might be a better pick than Semenyo because he's playing more centrally. He's also been on pens at some point at least, but I think Kluivert is going to take penalties now that Evan Nilsson missed a penalty. But anyways, maybe Evan Nilsson is better, but we've seen Semenyo this past game week as well against Man City do really well and be a really good threat. So he's still a really good player, even though he plays more on the wing now than he did earlier in the season when he played more centrally. He's still a really good asset, and he's still the most important player for Bournemouth, who's going to play pretty much 90 minutes every single game as well. So I think Semenyo is still a fantastic pick to have, but I think it's more long term. I think in the immediate term, I think Bruno Fernandes is a lot better. So that's why I'm currently looking to do that transfer myself, because I really want Fernandes in my team. But Semenyo is by no means a slouch, and there's really like no reason to force him out. But if you have a really good option to bring in for him, as I do now with the money that I have in the bank, I could potentially sell him myself. But if I was on a wildcard, I would definitely consider him. He is someone that could be good, especially if you want someone like Haaland rather than Salah, for example. Then going from Salah to Semenyo, and then upgrading one of your strikers from Jackson to Haaland, for example. That could be a decent way to do it, because I think Semenyo has really good fixtures for the long haul, and I think he's been proving most people this season that he is a force to be reckoned with for Bournemouth, who are still a really good team, as we could see with them beating Manchester City this past game week. At home, they're really, really good. They beat Arsenal at home, they beat Man City at home, and they can beat Leicester teams as well at home as well. So yeah, Semenyo is really good. João Pedro is finally getting back into fitness, and like I mentioned with Kadioglu, the Brighton fixtures are going to get really, really good really, really soon. So I think João Pedro is going to be, he was a really highly touted player at the start of the season, did really well as well, scored a lot of goals in the first few game weeks. Then he had a lot of injury issues, or had an injury issue the past few game weeks, and he hasn't really been playing. But I think he is a fantastic asset for 5.4 in attack. Just super cheap price. He's going to be really good for the foreseeable future. But currently, I just think Isak and Jackson are slightly better picks, even though they are a bit more expensive. But if I was going for a cheaper or a cheaper forward to have to accommodate someone else, someone more pricey in midfield, if you want to go from Mbeumo to Saka, for example, if you want to have like a more expensive midfield, or for example, if you want to have Trent Alexander-Arnold in defense still, then you could just have João Pedro rather than Nicholas Jackson and save some money that way. Speaking of defenders as well, Lucas Digne I think has been tremendous, and also the fixtures for Aston Villa are going to get better pretty soon. He also has a decent rotation thing with Maatsen being able to play in the Champions League potentially, and Digne resting a bit more. But I think the fixtures are really good for Digne, and he has been a really good asset so far this season. He's super attacking, gets attacking returns as well, and he can get clean sheets for Aston Villa, as we've seen previously in the season. He's actually been a really good player so far this season, but maybe once people catch it, or if he catches people's eye, I guess is what I'm trying to say. And a lot of people bring him in. We know what he's done in the past when he's a really popular FPL asset. He usually turns into shit. So hopefully he's going to be just like a nice underrated gem for you that can have all season, who gets continuously like 6 points, 7 points, 5 points, 8 points. Hopefully, but we know with Digne it's most likely going to be 2 points, 12 points, minus 2 points. That's usually what we get from Digne. But I think he's a decent player to have, and he's someone that you should definitely consider, especially seeing as Aston Villa are still a really good team, despite conceding 4 goals against Spurs, obviously. But Spurs are kind of that team. They can score 4 goals in a game. All of a sudden, they have a lot of attacking assets, and they are playing really attacking-wise. They are playing super attacking football. So yeah, that could just happen sometimes. Maybe it's not the biggest indictment of Aston Villa in general. And the fixtures are going to get better eventually. Liverpool away, obviously, and Chelsea away in the next 3 aren't the best. But Crystal Palace, Brentford, I think it's Southampton in game week 15, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, they have some good fixtures going onwards from that point on. So yeah, Digne is definitely someone you could consider as well, as a more attacking option than the likes of Consta and those guys you could pick instead. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the video. I hope you enjoyed it. There's going to be more videos this week as I'm leaving for London on Thursday. I'm going to record a lot of videos. Today I'm recording this video, which is recorded Tuesday night, but it's going to be released Wednesday morning. And then Wednesday I'm going to record both the FPL School podcast with Kevin and potentially someone else. And also I'm going to record my team selection video for the upcoming game week in game week 11. Where, like I said, I mentioned my potential transfer plans, Semenyo to Fernandes. I might do that. That's looking likely that I'm going to do that as well. So I'm going to talk more about that, and also the requisite free hit drafts that I do every single week as well in that video. So if you like the sound of that, please subscribe, and you'll get those videos as they come along. You'll get them in your feed, and you'll be able to watch them. Leave a like on the video as well. That also helps the channel to grow. Hopefully it can grow more and more eventually this season. And yeah, with all that said, thank you for watching. Bye bye.